Back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. This is a great week to be with the president of the Kyle Sloter fan club here, John Krasinski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune. This is the Viking Update Show. John's been helping out with this show as we kind of reorganize going forward on TalkNorth.com. So we have to start with the quarterbacks. We have to get to the kickers. We'll talk about a few other things in between. Thank you to Twill and the Edina Galleria, BiteSquad.com, promo code TalkNorth, and Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent in Champlin and anywhere you need him to be. So let's start with Kyle Sloter. Almost predictable, given the Vikings history and the Vikings fan base and the way we react to preseason performances in the quarterback position. Cousins stinks it up, Sloter lights it up, and of course, everything you see on social media is Sloter is the next Brett Favre. I know you're not that unrealistic about it, but you were higher on Sloter than I am, so what are you thinking now?
Well, I mean, I am just at a point where I really want to see more of him in positions where maybe he's not playing against the third and fourth stringers, because he has performed at such a high level when the lights are on in the opportunity that he's been given. So it is very clear that there are other things that he is not doing day in and day out that have pushed him down the list of preferences. And hey, I understand that. If you're a coach and you whether you see someone in the meeting room that's just not getting things, whether it's in practice and he's sloppy, you want to be able to rely on your backup as sort of someone who's just going to get in there and it's not going to be a roller coaster. And so I get that. Like I totally understand if there's some trepidation that's brought in by that, why the Vikings might be looking elsewhere, and you don't want to put too much emphasis on just the preseason, but the sample size is getting larger and larger. He has, for now 2 years in a row, come out and performed very well in his opportunities, and so I don't know how much more they could ask of him in those than what he has done so far. And so before they make any kind of decision, hopefully we see a lot of run from him in the preseason finale, and maybe with some twos instead of some threes and fours, and see if you can continue to evaluate it, because it just he jumps off of the screen when you're watching him, or off of the page when you're looking at it, and it's hard for me to just swipe all of that away and say, that it really doesn't matter at all. We don't want to. It's not the be all and end all, but I'm just putting more stock in it maybe than other people are.
I have a few reactions to that. First of all, is the basic premise of yours is of course right, which is eventually if somebody plays really well at a level, you have to move them up the level and see how it works. I mean, Luis Arise is hit 330 for in every place he's ever played baseball his entire life. He was not a top prospect, but if you keep hitting 330, you got to find out if he hit 330 in the big leagues.
Right.
And now he's hitting 330 in the big leagues. So you do have to try. And so my first reaction to this is the Vikings, if the Vikings don't like the blowback they're getting about Sloter and their use of him, it's their fault. Because they signed Sean Mannion as a backup quarterback, and he's not very good, and nobody thinks he's really good. He's just a guy. So, if it were Sloter against Case Keenum, who had played really well, at least at stretches in his career, then you go, okay, well, you got to go with the guy who's done it at least, right? Sloter's competing with a guy who hasn't done it. So why not? I think at this point I would start Sloter on Thursday night in Buffalo just to see how he handles that differentiation from his usual routine.
It's certainly worth exploring, absolutely. And I mean, you look at it, and I guess it's kind of, what do you want out of your backup quarterback? I think they do need to be a resource to the starter when it comes to being in the game or in the meeting room and bouncing ideas off of them, kind of trying to relate to the starting quarterback and communicate with him well. Maybe Mannion does that a lot better than Sloter. It's entirely possible. maybe you do look at it as, shoot, if we lose Kirk Cousins, it's going to be an uphill battle anyway. So let's take the guy who we think is going to help us through the slog of the season, and can be, another coach for Cousins and kind of a companion that way. But I guess what you have to decide is here. I think that if Kyle Sloter is cut, he's going to be snatched up immediately. There's a dearth of quality quarterbacks in this league, and he is going to be claimed the second he hits the wire. And so when you have someone like that, I don't know. It's hard to let those kinds of arm talents go because there's just not that many of them out there. But the other argument against it is Case Keenum did not look good when he was here, but he had this veteran presence and poise about him that once things really got going, he was able to play well and get the team to follow him. Maybe Mannion has that kind of leadership and that kind of personality and ability to do that if he was needed. Maybe Kyle Sloter a little more excitable or things like that. But gosh, he just keeps putting up numbers.
The other aspect of this that I'll reference, and this is the difficult part, is judging someone against inferior competition.
Right.
And what I will say in the Vikings' defense, or on their behalf, which I hate doing, I hate defending the Vikings, but I'll try it here, is every year we see college quarterbacks play great against teams that have NFL talent and that are really well coached, and they're playing under bright lights in front of 100,000 people, and they go out and they light it up. They're great quarterbacks, and then they get to the NFL and they can't do it. They just can't function against NFL defenses. They can't handle whatever it is, the pressure, the decision-making, the light, whatever it is. So Sloter, to me, is succeeding against guys who are really not NFL players, aren't going to make the rosters, and I won't completely discount what he's doing. I would say it's probably time for the Vikings to find out what he might do against somebody better. But the problem is they've already run out of time.
Right.
Because the fourth preseason game, there aren't going to be NFL players on the field.
Yeah, that's the difficulty. There will be NFL players on the field, on Thursday night. It's just, certainly not starting caliber. 3? Yeah. And so it is harder to evaluate that way. But, kind of getting back to your Arias comparison, Sloter is hitting 330 right now against AA pitching. So maybe Thursday night would represent AAA pitching and give him a chance. And if he has another big game, then, the other thing about this is that we are talking about the backup quarterback. We're not talking about the starting quarterback. So I think you have a little more wiggle room to play with there. I think that in general in the NFL, if you lose your starting quarterback, the benefit of the doubt suddenly gets thrown your way and say, well, you lost your starting quarterback. What are you going to do? And so if they were trying to choose between Sloter and Cousins or Sloter and Mannion as the starter, that's a whole different ball of wax. You're trying to choose between who your number two is going to be, and in the most dire of emergencies, who are you going to throw out there? And so I think that if you want to, you can either bet on the talent or you can bet on the most dependable and reliable. And I'm not even saying betting on the most dependable and reliable is the wrong thing, but I do think that Sloter has done enough against these inferior guys to see if that there is an opportunity to get him in a situation where he's playing against a little more talented defense and see what he does with it. That's what I'd like to see.
Thanks to Twill in the Edina Galleria. TWILLMN.com is the website. TWILL on Instagram. They'll give you lots of great photos of all the beautiful clothes they have. I just wear this stuff all the time. And the great thing is when you buy something at Twill, you're basically going to have it the rest of your life because it's durable. It's so well made. It's not disposable clothing like you get in so many stores. Also, it's a Peter Millar Crown shop, and I do own some Peter Millar stuff as well. I'm here with my wife, Stacy. We went to Twill in the Edina Galleria the other day. We saw Scott Dayton, and I bought the nicest sport jacket I've ever owned, the most comfortable pants I've ever owned. They're Brax. a nice pair of loafers that I can wear to the ballpark. I think they're called Tracks. And I bought a bunch of Stenstrom short sleeve shirts to go with my Stenstrom nice dress shirts. And, I used to wear just disposable clothes. Now when I buy something, I buy it at Twill. I know it's going to last me the rest of my life and it's going to be comfortable.
And on top of that, it's not just the best stuff you've ever had, but it's really everyday things that you can wear and that will fit all occasions.
Yeah, I've worn the Stenstrom short sleeve shirts every day this week. When I dress up or even just want to look nice at a game or a Lynx game or something, I wear the Stenstrom dress shirts. But really, the Brax pants are the most comfortable I've ever worn. They are more comfortable than jeans. I never thought I'd have anything more comfortable than a broken-in pair of jeans.
And he keeps saying that, Scott, so thank you very much.
Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill on Instagram. All right, I think we said everything that will ever need to be said about Vikings quarterbacks. We're done with the topic for the next 5 years, or at least until Friday. Let's talk about the next big topic, which is kickers, punters, holders, snappers. I thought they were botching it 2 weeks ago. Now they pretty much botched it. I mean, I guess there's a possibility that this could all work out, but if it works out, it's going to be by accident. They are still messing around with kicker, punter, even holder going into the final preseason game, which is pretty meaningless. Vedvik missed 2 field goals on Saturday, and you can all see the leg strength and the athletic ability, but he did what Daniel Carlson did last year. At this point, I don't even know what to recommend to these people.
Right. I mean, right now they need luck on their side, and they've never had luck on their side when it comes to kickers. So it does seem like they are going out on a limb here, and it's a very precarious one. I have not understood their process from the start here. I understand wanting to go out and get this guy, Vedvik. Maybe you really like his talent. Presumably you've scouted him, you've done all your homework on him, you think he can be an upgrade. But then to bring him in here and move him all over the place, punter and kicker, then different holders, then you have, while punting sometimes, and then you had Bailey, he didn't kick last week, but he kicked in the week before, and it just seems like this is a position group that thrives on continuity and stability, and there is none of that right now with that group. And you would think that in this situation, you just want to pick your guys and put them together and let all 3 of them do as many reps as possible in games and in practices so you can get it all down. And it just has muddied the waters way too much right now. And they're in a rough spot. I don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they're going to do, as Zimmer said after the game. And they have essentially a week, a little bit more than a week to make this decision. And it is fraught with peril right now.
I see this as typical of the Zimmer-Spielman brain trust. And I just don't think their mentality works well when it comes to kickers, punters, and maybe quarterbacks. Because Spielman and Zimmer, what they do is they say, give me the raw talent, bring in the most talented athletes, we'll work with them, we'll make them better, and we'll end up with really valuable assets. You can draft, Daniil Hunter late, and he's a great athlete, and we're going to make him into a player. You can draft, whoever.
Stephon Diggs,
Stephon Diggs. And you know what? He's a great athlete. We can work with him. Even goes back to Adrian Peterson. Give us the best athlete, and we'll make it all work. Problem is, at these positions, athletic ability is less important than reliability, and reliability is really hard to scout. Blair Walsh is a really talented kicker. Daniel Carlson, really talented kicker. Vedvik, very talented kicker. But drafting or acquiring talent at these positions doesn't necessarily solve your problem.
Right, and they have history both on their side and against them in terms of some of the decisions that have been made. They cut Blair Walsh, and he now just recently signed with Atlanta, but he has floundered since trying to get another spot. So they were essentially validated in that. He was in such a weird headspace, it just was not going to work either here or in Seattle or anywhere. Maybe it'll work in Atlanta, but we'll see. Daniel Carlson, on the other hand, they cut.